So I guess, as Marzi said, my background is financial services, 20 years running businesses, and most recently CEO of Internet in Europe. And I wanted to take a step back to think about like some of the problems in our business, or what we used to think about, right, which are pretty common to every business. So we used to think about like product innovation, and if we innovate around product, we're going to take market share. If we take market share, hopefully we're going to grow revenue and we're going to drive profitability. And of course, because we're a financial services business, we absolutely need to make sure that we're regulatory compliant. Now, the good news is, to help us with some of those objectives, there's been a huge amount of innovation, be it from new fintech apps, vendors, whatever it may be, the growth of big data and analytics, or more advanced big data analytics, machine learning, AI, all these things have been around for a very long time, but actually, are reaching a far deeper level than what we previously experienced. And then coming into the world of bots and advisors. Now for the bit to bring it down a peg or two, which is we also had to deal with lots of different regulatory change and regulatory drivers, which I know many of you are going to resonate with. So whether it's the Market Abuse Directive from last year, MiFID II, which I know is soaking up a huge amount of resources, particularly here in Europe, just a few weeks to go, the broader FCA kind of culture and conduct committee could drive, and then just a general drive to make sure we've got good systems and controls inside our organisations to make them really, really safe. Now, at the heart of this is still people. It's our employees. And the good news is that through innovation, we can create lots of new apps with lots of new features, just like the guys before me have just described. But the question is, where do I take the space from for these new desktop apps? So we know this looks like a pretty traditional desktop with one particular vendor dominating. I maybe should have thought about that more. But lots of different applications. And if you're a salesperson, for example, you're going to have many different things here, right? You're going to have your CRM, you have an EMS, you might have an OMS, you're going to certainly have your market data sources, you're going to have Salesforce, like Dan just mentioned, and so on. It's pretty complex. And also, trying to change behavior of employees is easier said than done. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, if I want to change and give them a new product, how am I going to take space on their desktop? And our default position used to be, well, I tell you what, why don't we build it inside the tool they're already using, right? So why don't we start aggregating inside? But if you think about that, you can kind of question, is that really the answer? So should the world just be like one big app? But if you think about it, would you really want, on your phone, for example, a map app, your news app, your instant messaging, and your photos all to be inside one application? That doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? So we know today the power is really in very individual applications. So if I think about Facebook, Facebook do a really good job of presenting, my Facebook information in a really useful way to me. They know their users incredibly well. Very similarly, I know that Uber have designed a great app that can, get me, make my travel, my journeys much, much simpler. All the way through to the FT, who have a really nice app. And they know what I want to read. They organize it really, really well. And they help me navigate around it, super easily. So I guess, it's really about having apps that are fit for specific purposes, designed in a particular way, and are highly specialized. But crucially, why does it become even more powerful on our devices? And that's really the mobile kind of interop layer. So in this interop layer, we have this great thing where I can go in my calendar, I can see what I'm doing, I can see I've got a meeting somewhere, and it's got an address. And I can click on that address, and it's going to pop up Google Maps for me. It shared that address, it shared that context. So in Google Maps, I'm going to think about what's the fastest way for me to get there. And the fastest way to get there is going to be a car. Straight from Google Maps, I can go into my Uber app and organize myself a ride to wherever I'm going. And then crucially from Uber, I can actually share exactly where I am with any of my friends via a messaging system. So this interop layer has really brought these very distinct applications to life. So let's take a step back to capital markets and particularly the front office. So the front office in capital markets is pretty complex, as we all know. It's not just one asset class. It's fixed income, FX, equities, my background. There's IBD and asset management. So there's lots of different divisions and asset classes that exist within our banking, broking, asset management organisations. Now, to make that problem a little bit more complex, we can say, well, there's lots of different genres and types of people inside these different divisions. We have sales guys within equities, we have trading guys in equities, we have research guys in equities. They all want something different. They're all their own mini ecosystem with lots of different supporting applications. Throw that in the mix of we have all of our corporate partners inside those organisations with risk management producing information for us, compliance, finance, treasury, middle office, back office, all driving information the other way to the front office also, which needs to be absorbed, needs to be acted upon for us to be compliant with all those things we talked about in the first slide. And what's the resultant scenario is that we have a whole bunch of different types of applications that people are trying to interact with in some way. Now, Dan touched on earlier just some of those kind of vendor applications. These can certainly be vendor applications. These can be internal applications. They can be websites. They can be native desktop. They can be lots of different things. So really, it's about not reducing the number of applications because we want to retain that specialization and uniqueness and the power that goes alongside it. But it's certainly about increasing the overall experience and usability for the end user. And I think central to that, similar to our mobile analogy, is really this Interop layer, which is really, really important. So at OpenFin, we're taking this pretty seriously. We really want the industry to move towards kind of solving this problem, and we'd like to lead the way. We've launched a working group called FDC3, stands for Financial Desktop Connectivity and Collaboration Consortium. You see why it's called FDC3. And it's really about bringing people together, whether they're vendors, customers of OpenFin, non-customers of OpenFin, but really with a shared objective of solving this Interop problem, which we think if we can solve for it, it will make users and experience much better. So really open to everybody, and if it's a problem that you identify with inside your organisation, we'd love to have you join FDC3. Come and talk to myself or one of the team later on. Thank you very much.